There we go. You got it.
That
Hi,
way it all
everybody.
works at once, yeah.
Welcome back. I know we've been offline for a while, so those of you that tune in every Wednesday at 12:30, sorry we missed you. There's been a lot going on in the school district of Waukesha. Sorry. All right. Anyway, here we go. Let me just say something off the cuff before we start, because I was thinking about this as I was eating my fish fillet on the way back from McDonald's just now.
Okay.
I was thinking that I should start out with a celebration and say that it's been nice to see you guys make your thinking visible in your blog posts and everything like that I know some of you are doing. I know I enjoy reading them each week, and I know our teachers do, because every once in a while I'll be in a conversation with somebody that will refer back to that. So it's in those moments where you know that it's a good thing, because someone will make reference to something in there. So as part of our leadership roles, I will continue to say that it's our responsibility to communicate what we value. And so I really thank you for putting your thoughts out there so that people can see what you value, what our vision is, and that we're working in concert. Goes to you all on that. I know it's another sort of leadership thing to do, but I really think it's important. So thank you for that. What does it say? Number 1 on there.
Number 1, summer learning and leadership expectations.
Okay. And is there a number 2 on there?
Number 2 is curriculum camp, summer.
Okay, so they kind of, I think 1 and 2 and some of those kind of blend together. So in the Connect last week, and we need to make sure that we continue to push people to the Connect also as like the major district communication tool. In the Connect, we put a rough sketch of some summer leadership dates. Did we put this in Connect? And or PD opportunities. And now I'm second guessing if we put this in there or not. That's why we're discussing it today. Summer leadership dates, we kind of have solidified for our principal team and our ILT team, which would include this team. Everyone around this table, I'm almost positive, is under a 190-day contract, okay? Our teachers are on what? 180.
No, 190.
Because of the professional learning days.
They're 190. Okay. And you're 200, right? And I'll just put it out there and say, supposedly when we hired most of you last year, you were all supposed to be on 200, but that somehow didn't go through. And so when I pushed Chris about a month ago on this kind of conversation about, well, why aren't mine 200? She's like, because nobody told them that, and are you going to be the one to tell them that? And I said, well, I'm not ready for that yet. So with the 190 days, I think there's been some conversation about having like 10 days in the summer. Chris talked 10 to 15 days in the summer where you would be like expected to work between the time school gets out on June 12th and school starts, in September. And so what I wanted to be able to do is at least clearly define when some of those times are that for sure you need to be here. And then obviously if you're doing things curriculum-wise with your teachers, that would be a separate sort of work day in the summer that you're doing. Knowing then you would in essence flex that time during the school year. So if there are, not counting the Summer Institute, because we all have to be there. So let's just say June 22nd and 23rd, and I'll give you guys copies of these, so don't even worry about writing anything down. June 22nd and 23rd, we have like a school district of Waukesha sale launch, where we would have principals, coordinators, etc. We would also be conducting perhaps principal quarterly reviews at that point. And then that would be your first opportunity as coordinators to give your theory of action you present your L1, L2, and L3 to the principals. We had a conversation around this table of, well, how can the principals hear what my work is? How can the principals support my work? And then we're also hearing from principals, well, how can coordinators hear, so you guys have been invited in to hear their work at the building level, but we're going to make sure that we flip it so that the second day actually is you guys presenting your L1, L1, 2, and 3 for them. So they can all hear what everybody's working on. And then if you're a principal and or AP working most directly with you, they can help support your work. So that would be an example of what would happen on some of those days. And that would be an example of, again, above and beyond the school year that you would be expected to come in. We need to do a better job, and we haven't done this at all as a department, on communicating when we're going to be gone, just for anything. When you are out of the district for Slate, for Google, for I'm visiting my grandma, for I took a vacation, my kid's sick. Sick time is sick time. You'll enter in your absence is sick. If your kid is sick, you're supposed to use a sick day for that. If you go to a conference, you're supposed to enter school business and write the conference you're at. Those of you that have been told you could flex your time and go to Hawaii for 3 days, you need to write in there school business, and in the notes you need to say 3 days of flex time. You need to have told me where you are so I know. I don't even know where some of you guys are half the time. That needs to make, you need to make sure that you put that in there. And I don't think, at least from my records in Skyward that I've looked at with Chris, that we have been doing that. So starting now, we're going to do that. I asked a couple of you to try to retro if you can. Don't spend too much time on it, but really if you were gone and you can look back at your calendar and see that you were out 3 days, it should be in there. So I do the same thing. So this group isn't like immune to entering things into Skyward for that reason. So do you have any questions on that piece?
So the question that I have is more on flex days. So last year I kept a running total of my summer hours. I ended up with 160 hours of time over the summer that I was working, doing. So where do I enter that so that the balance comes, through?
Yes, you need to enter that almost like timesheetish with me, similarly to like what our guidance counselors have done.
Okay.
So I will know, I can see, okay, Brian Yearling has 60 hours, so that when you're putting in, because I have to approve all that when it comes through, I can say, okay, he's working down. And what my counselors did is they put like 60 hours, now I'm down to 52 hours, and we'll both keep track in the notes section, so that
Okay.
HR then has that
There's a
same
watch
running
there.
record. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Because this has been the loosest part of working here is
it's,
nobody's expected that. No one stated that.
yeah, and then I think I said to one of you last week, put it in Skyward, and I was like, what? And so I had to check my thinking. So I met with Chris Hestrom, and she's like, yeah. So that needs to be, and I don't know.
That's what we do too.
Yeah.
we do this.
I shared a doc with Joe. When he came, he wanted to know. Because in the
Yeah.
past, we all got paid for our summer work, which was different. And now we're
Right.
not. We haven't been paid. We get paid for IEP work because that's different. But then I just shared a sheet with him and said, these are the hours, the days and the hours I worked. It adds up to be this many days. And then now as I go in, there's no way it'll ever balance.
Yeah.
I understand that and I've accepted that,
Yeah.
but at least he's aware when I'm taking a day where it's going.
And that's the thing for me. I think I ran into a couple times already, someone's gone and they're like, where's so-and-so? I'm like, I have no idea. So, and I'm looking skyward, I'm like, well, there's nothing there. So that's just not the right practice. So we just need to make it. And, you know, I know we're all busy, but yeah, I mean, if I'm gone, I'm going to say to Ryan, like, hey, I just so you know, I got a vacation day tomorrow. Or, I mean, just courtesy, just say something and then enter it as well. So just get in the habit of doing that
So the challenge to you will be is write little cool remarks like Joe does to us when we put them in.
in the,
Yeah.
in Skyward. Yeah.
So Jody, for example, like I was at a convention this morning and I was gone a half a day. You want,
Not for you. I thought of that. You're like at WCTC every day. You're not going to enter in. You're at WCTC
Okay.
for 2 hours. But
and
if
it's
you're,
always on my calendar.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
check your calendar though, and
Oh,
neither is HR. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it's like if you're not doing Waukesha County business,
Okay.
if you're not doing Waukesha County business, then you're entering it in. That's what I would say the rule of thumb.
And so let me just ask it, and I'm fine doing it, but like a few weeks ago, I took 2 hours because I had to take my husband for colonoscopy.
Yep.
I was on my computer the whole time I was at the hospital, but do you want things like, I mean, it was 2 hours, I dropped them off, I came back. Do you want, like how, I know that's getting picky, but I want to do the right thing.
Yep.
Here's the thing though. We kind of tossed this word around yesterday. Chris is like really like you're professional. If I don't know, are you going to be working? You guys don't work 8-hour days, but if you're out doing a colonoscopy for 2 hours, sorry, that was bad. I mean,
I'm
it's your
sorry.
example, but
Mhm.
are you
That
gonna
sounds kinda
like?
shitty.
It's 2 hours. You're not working for the district,
But I
right?
was working, because I was on my computer. It was his colonoscopy, not mine. Sorry.
Amy Lang, Lange,
Oh, sorry.
recorded live session.
Sorry.
Here's the thing too, I have sometimes, and this is just my bias, but like I could be working every day of my life. If I say working is being on my computer. Okay, so devil's advocate is like much of what we do should be FaceTime in our schools with the people where the work happens. And I know I've said that a million times, but like to me, check on your computer, checking email. Well, guess what? We could all sit here and do that 12 hours a day, every day, couldn't we? So
So that's
Use-
that's not working. I mean, it's a real question, though.
I think we should all go to managing to lead training here because I think that would help us all try to define in our workday what our priorities are.
Hmm.
I have a very different way of managing my leadership in my day because I could sit in my office,
Mhm.
correct, and do 10 to 12 hours of email, but I don't know if that's a priority simply because of what I know needs to be done in the system. So to answer that question, I think it's unfair for you to even ask me that. I would direct it right back at you, Brian, and say,
Yeah.
what do you think? Do you
I
want to
do.
sit
I
downstairs?
do think there are times when that is working. I think that's
Okay.
connecting. I mean,
And if
do I think
that's-
do I think 12 hours a day is appropriate? No.
Yeah.
Do I think that the primary amount of work that I do is that? No.
Okay,
But I think our roles are so multifaceted
absolutely.
that to sit down there and develop a PD session for an hour and then to answer 15, 20 emails that happen to point us to another set of work
Yeah,
that we follow up with face-to-face like that's all context of work
I'm
there.
not questioning.
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean, I don't think it's unfair. I think it's a part of the work. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't working.
Yeah.
I
mean, so this goes back to, is that work? I don't know, Amy. I have no idea. 2 hours, you flex your time, don't put it in. I don't know what to tell you on that. I don't want to I'm not
I don't wanna do
HR.
it wrong.
Well, we've been all doing it wrong. We haven't entered anything. Okay, so you're going to be better than you were. How about that? You're going to be better than you have. And I wouldn't overthink it
Okay.
like that. But obviously, if you're gone for 3 days in Arizona and you don't put it in there, that's an issue.
Yes.
So then,
I have one other question.
do you have something
Oh, no. I want to hear the next question.
that I
So,
fail on? If it,
No, we talked about like the 22nd and 23rd and that's fine, but I'm kind of like Brian. I logged 150 hours last summer.
okay.
And that was all, probably 30 hours alone on the C-Tiers report, but also then it was all curriculum work. So
Okay.
my question is, are you crafting those 10 days that we come in, or is it flexible? Like, like, am I gonna have 150 hours of curriculum and CTRs plus 10 more days?
Right.
Or are some of those, how many of the 10 days are you telling us we need to be here?
Right, and so looking at these summer leadership dates, which I will give you, there are, as I mentioned, there are days when you know you have to be here. August 3rd and 4th. August 4th is the coordinators quarterly. You all are presenting your L1, 2, and 3 on August 4th, so you need to be here on that day. That's just one day. So there are probably, looking at this schedule, about 5 days like that, similar to those leadership type activities. But then, as I mentioned, some others would be, for example, the other agenda item was like a curriculum camp, where, and we've talked about doing PD and curriculum work in flexible ways, and many of you are doing that now, where you're not pulling out teachers during the day, you're doing it on Saturdays, you're doing it at night, etc. So part of this Changing Minds book, one of the strategies in there that I was reading of that reaffirmed what we're trying to do creatively is bringing teachers together in the summer. That is a time where they're most relaxed, most refreshed, can dig in to do the work without kids. Why don't you, those of you that are doing that work, bring in a team for, 2 days and get a lot done. So you have to think of those options as well. I mean, we don't walk out the door on the 13th and then stop for 2 months and wait for everything to pick back up.
Do you usually, oh, sorry.
Keep that thought.
Just wait for
Yeah, no. You can go.
No, go.
I was just, with that curriculum work, because I know we're gonna talk about budgeting.
Yeah.
But do you approve, like, how many hours of curricular work we would submit? So like, if I say I want to pay out my 12 team this many curricular hours, is that something that you want to make sure you, like, is that something I go through you for?
I thought, and we meet again on Monday for the budget, but I thought that was part of your department budget. So my impression is that your humanities budget, you will budget substitute in essence, timesheet hours for that work.
But that's Title II, right?
Not your budget.
Ours was in CNI, like when we put it for substitutes, it was separate from our little
Because that was,
$2,000. That was
For the lab sites, it was.
no, but because when.
I don't know then. I'd have to ask Mary Jo. I don't know.
Last summer, and actually every year, there has been curriculum requests through CNI that we have put in. So I have paid for some out of Brook and some out of CNI. And
Okay.
there was a form to fill out.
Yep.
And then you had to talk about which district initiative
Yep.
or which district goals
Yes.
you were working towards.
That's
And that
Title
was-
II, I think.
Yeah, some of it's
Right?
title, some of it's, I mean, really, if you know you need to do that, you should budget for it in your department budget. It's like we tell buildings, if you know you want to do, you should budget for it. If you did not, you're gonna have to put in a request somewhere, and we're gonna have to see where,
Prioritize
down
it,
to
yeah.
do it, it's like what's money's left over. I think we want to be able to offer some of those things, so I do review those, Jody will, we'll look at them and talk about them, but if you know that you need 10 hours or you need 50 hours, you have this project, that should be something you're either forecasting or foreshadowing. The more detail you have, the better, because it's harder for that to get cut out of a budget if people know exactly what it's for. This is the annual curriculum writing or assessment piece or whatever.
Well, and that was, I'm just going off of, money was budgeted for subs for when people who did this before us thought the curriculum was solely written by pulling teachers in once a month. There was money budgeted for that. So we were told, starting in September, take that money, and since you can't pull teachers, you're gonna pay teachers that money. So that's how, like, I've been paid for my work sessions
Yep.
at night.
Yep.
And so that's what I guess I'm thinking, like, I'm gonna use that money, like, I have 16 grand sitting in this account for Title II for what was supposed to go to subs, that aren't being used for subs, that I'm planning on paying out in the summer, because that's when they're now gonna come to work.
I wouldn't guarantee, well, I'm not going to say anything, but from what I'm hearing, I don't know that you'd be guaranteed that money, to be very honest with you. With the deficit we're facing, we now have a summer school deficit that we're supposed to pull money from CNI. I mean, I will know more Monday at our budget meeting,
Okay.
but in just looking at the 15-16 budget, at the projections that I've already put, with textbooks, some of these requests, substitute salaries I put in for Deb and Lynette, professional development, that. To Ryan's point, I think you should look at your department budget first, and then again, that's the first priority layer, and then the second would be the either title or the bigger CNI. You can speak now.
Sorry.
Well, these are good questions, and again, be mindful of how you're asking them and how by next year it'll be better. So with your budgeting process, continue to be clear on what, how many hours, what kind of time of year these kind of things. I apologize, it's not clear in advance, but our goal is to do better, you know.
Yeah.
This is a tough conversation as well as with hours. I just, from my standpoint, it's one of those things you grow and develop into in terms of what is the operation and what's our mode. Far from a person that does not believe at all in punching in and punching out.
Yeah.
I used to mow lawns for a living. It was not clear when I was working and when I wasn't. And then once in a while we got gas at Super America. It was like 5 minutes and we moved around. But other than that, we had North Super America at Speedway.
Yeah.
Okay. Used to be Super America. They had great donuts. But that was pretty clear. So the defining of what's working and what's not is one of those constant swirls. And I think also Jody mentioned advantage to lead. We can bring that training in. Really, that's a self-reflective process of what are you trying to accomplish and how do you manage your time and day. I mean, there's never an empty inbox. There's never a phone that's not blinking. There's never a task list that's not done.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it's about managing the top priorities and other things like that. When it comes down to those specific hours, you got to use that professional judgment. Chris has just taught me a number of things over the years, just about things like theft of time. Pretty clear if you're going to a Brewer game and you didn't put it in, that's theft of time. That's opening days coming, so make sure you're taking off that day. You take off that day. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's over spring break, right?
Yep.
We're good. That's not that. But everything you could do to not hold yourself to the kid calendar anymore would be really good for probably how you're approaching your work or an 8 to 3 mindset. Yes, you might have that. It might fit in your lifestyle right now. It might be how you calendar now. But if each year you take more and more steps towards redefining what that looks like, I think you'll be able to approach that work just a little bit differently. I know you just be like, well, I don't work here and here now, but as a team, if you're like, I'm just going to start grinding out these afternoons and these evening workshops, you got it. I trust people to make a professional call and say, I'm coming in a little bit later because I'm staying doing these things here. It's different when it's just like all the time and you're not quite sure. It's not a part of a big picture plan when it's guesswork. And I'd like to have our CNI team, especially a team like this, have the flexibility. You're going to be scrutinized. Like our schools are on belts. It's pretty clear. It starts at this time. It's stopping at this time. There's scheduled classes. There's scheduled meetings. But our ability at this office is different. I kind of always laugh and I'm always, here 45 coming at the same time. Does that have a meaning to it? I laugh at even at Todd's thing. Todd is here like clockwork on each day, but he's leaving here 4 nights a week at 10 p.m. And you think, does that even count as a day, or he works 8 days a week? Something like that. So there's a self-reflection piece. I'd ask you, do you ever have any personal conversation or conflict with that? Ask Jody, myself, Chris Hedstrom. She's good. I mean, this is Chris Hedstrom's role. I just don't want to put maybe anybody in a spot where it does or it doesn't make sense to you, or it feels way out of balance, or it's not. I think it's difficult to always manage precisely. But that whole theft of time, and basically, if you're working or not, and even a 1 or 2 hour thing, if at some point you got to make that call and just decide, am I checking out for this minute or not, or there. But plus, I think it also gives you a sense of relief when you are checking out, so have that permission to. Because when you do, and you actually put it in that thing, and it says I'm off for a couple hours, at least people just, be off. Put it down, or be present for your kids' thing, or you're gonna leave early because you gotta leave early. Leave early. Enjoy that day too. That's a hard piece of this job. Who's not looking at it on Sunday at 4 o'clock? I get more emails between 4 o'clock and 10 o'clock on Sundays than any other time during the week.
It's true.
They were either looking ahead or
Right.
cleaning something up or finishing something. So just take it for what it's worth. Keep looking at it, but eventually it comes down to how you manage the calendar and your time and your work.
When I think of office tasks or working here, I remember when I was hired, I was told by Chris, like, you get sick, just work from home that day.
Yeah, I gave her that quote. I think she was misquoted. I think,
I wouldn't say though, I heard the same.
yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, so,
Than that, yeah.
Full day of- Or it's like you come over Christmas break, but like, I
Yeah, and I
try to
said, like-
follow the rule.
right, and I mean, I'll be honest, we talked about that yesterday, and I'm like, what do I want her doing here over Christmas? Like, why would she come in during Christmas break and be like,
Get it.
no, so, again, I don't.
So can I reflect a little bit?
Let's
Because
do it.
I'm a little anxious right now.
Okay.
And I want to kind of get this out there at the risk of me being condemned, okay?
Wow.
What I heard during this discussion is our work is face-to-face in the buildings with people, not on the computer. But then I also heard that our work is outside of the typical. We got to look at our work outside the typical hours, and that's a conflict for me, because our face-to-face people and the people we're really here for are the kids and the teachers, okay? And it really is not digesting well with me that that's such a conflict, and with my own personal life involved, because I do want to have some kind of a life, that it sounds to me like you're asking me to put everything in and not get anything out of it.
I'll requote it. My challenge when you have when you're in a role like you guys are in, is if your main audience is teachers, which a lot of times that's our main team we're trying to work with. If their hours are 8 to 3, and we're working 8 to 3, and we don't have access to them, what I'm saying is we need to find the places we do. It could be during their prep time. It could be, but there's some places, and that's why I said flex the time. If some of you are like, you know what, the high schools have all these morning PLC meetings, and I'm getting up at 6 and getting in there because that's my time to be with them, and you leave at 2 o'clock, I'm good with that, because it's like you're flexing your day to be a part of that. I also, if it's like Rachel said, I'm doing these night ones all the time. I need her to know I'm good. If you're staying here, you're grinding it out, and people are coming in, I'm good with you coming in and moseying your way in, because I know you didn't get home till 7 or 8. I know laundry piles up, and it's nice to see your house sometime and things like that. So that's my take. If it's coming across as do both of those and burn it on all ends of the candle, and no, what I'm trying to say is by just purely, here's what I see in the past. We report on that calendar comes out and people start putting in those 3 days on the calendar. What day are we back? And I feel like this group might miss the opportunity to have their teams in front of them, to work some of these hours, to do some of the summer writing, to do other things at the expense of holding tier to that calendar those 180 days. When there could be days when it's like, wow, my team's available. This works good for my time. Or PSI is a good time to meet with my team. And that's what I'm trying to get at with that. So I apologize if it's coming across differently. It's just more about a flexibility in that sort of sense. I hear great pressure, and I sense great pressure from our system all the time on what happens between 8 and 4 every day. And I know that's I feel like kid time. When kids are here, we have 15,000 kids here. That's our time to put our energy and our best flow with them. That's what we're designed for. But it's all the other times outside of that, days or days off, or summer, or flex time, or needs that I want to make sure we're also maximizing and doing well. And that's what includes compensating teachers like this model, where we pay them for some of that great work, and includes getting credits for classes. So, yeah, I apologize if it came across differently. It's just more about if that's our main audience, can we reach them? Can we maximize them? And to be honest, Emily and Rose found a way this year at the elementary level that I think was out of sight, and it's during the day. It's the Flex PD model that's happening. Some of you've done 3 or 4 of them. Other schools have done it. I think that's a fantastic solution. The rule is high level of student learning going on, not additional costs on our system, and great quality embedded learning. So I think that's an example of where it does. So I apologize if it came across differently.
This is more of a logistical question than I thought about it, but are you working then off this year of last summer's flex time? Like up till what, June 30th then? Or how?
Ish, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's usually pretty disproportionate anyhow, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And I guess to me, one of the main things besides like keeping track for HR is like communication. You know, just communicate. Just give a heads up or so we kind of started talking about this, but the curricular camp, summer camp, I guess I just, again, as you're beginning your budgeting process and as you're thinking about really your L3, I mean, to me, this is your L3 and you're building that now throughout the summer into next school year. So what does that big picture look like as you work backwards? And when can you maximize, you know, bringing your teams together to do the work? So not too soon to think about that, especially because we know that the summer gets booked. But if you know that your English 11 teachers are coming in on July 20th and 21st, then you know it, they know it, it's booked, it's done. So, any just comments or questions about that whole?
I have a couple things, just more clarification questions. That document that you have in there, it hasn't been published yet, it's going to be more compact, or it's already on the.
This is, no, we talked about this week, going out this week. The PD one was on there, but not the leadership dates. We had just bounced that around with principals, so you'll have it by the end of the week. You had a couple, keep going.
That and
What else is on that agenda?
But
Or can't you
I want to
wanna?
make a comment, but I'm not sure. I don't want to give people in context.
Okay.
Because I'm very new taking that in response to the work. We don't work with teacher calendar, but some fixed points in the summer calendar that we may have put money down on the calendar. I just
Yep.
want to share everyone's idea around some fixed
Yep.
dates, and now we're feeling some pressure to.
Right.
So I just
Right.
put it out there for some reflection and discussion.
Yep, I'll give you an example. I just started this job 2 months ago, and I met with the team like 2 weeks ago, and Ryan said, we're working on, you know, we all decided these dates on June 22nd and 23rd. Like we have SDW sale launch, like this is what we're doing on those 2 days. And I said to Ryan, I already am in Boulder Junction those 2 days. And he said, okay. So, I mean, again, yeah. So it's just,
We're discussing it all.
yeah. And I think, again, me being new to the role, trying to navigate, I mean, this is, as Ryan said, we'll get better every year at doing this. I think there's no reason why these shouldn't be able to be forecasted earlier for numerous reasons. So, on a lot of levels, it's new teams coming together, doing the work and communicating and working differently. And so we all have to just be able to navigate that together.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be any angst with like, you know, asking and be like a month ago, like, you know, what dates, you know, what the future things with this, new people orientation. It's also okay then, and we go ahead and start,
Right.
for the summer.
Right.
So there's not going to be like, if we already have something booked, like,
Can you picture Ryan or I coming up? What do you think we're going to do? Fire you? I mean, that's kind of a smart comment, but really, like, what do you think? Like, what would happen? What do you think we wouldn't be
I like to
understanding?
be well planned, and I don't want to feel guilty because
Don't.
perhaps
I
I
said,
would love
like,
to be there.
yeah,
I'm sorry, and it looks like I'm checking out and not doing the work
No.
because I asked and now these dates are
no,
too bad.
So unfortunately, if you went with just a school calendar, you'd see the title week days. You know, I hate title week, right? You'd see the days kids are home. You'd see the new teacher day. You'd see PSI. Those are all title weeks. To be real honest, in my opinion, they're all dates that people are going to attend because they're on the calendar. Doesn't mean it's quality. Doesn't mean it's good. It's there. So some of those other dates that they gave Jody, like got some sales training, and I need to do some follow-up and some communication. I would say your check for yourself is if you can ensure that you're continuing to develop a rolling tide with your teams, ongoing communication, some good professional development they wanted, that you know you're connected with them throughout the year. I put way more value on that than
Totally.
being at a certain date.
Totally.
If that makes any sense. So like new teachers, I gave that one a pretty low ranking last year. We kind of talked to them more than I wanted to on me and stuff like that. And it was just one of those things. My real question on new teachers is, are our coaches connecting with them and department leaders connecting them with them ongoing all year? Because that's where I believe the real connection for our new teachers are going to be all year, rather than just a symbolic date when we give them dates and high five, or other things like tell them we're doing that date. So my question on like that would be like, yeah, well, you might be gone, Dan might be gone. Let's say there's 3 new math teachers. Dan's like, you know what? I got something important to do. I'm not going to be there. It's one thing to say, okay, Dan's not there. Maybe there's new math teachers, and I'd probably say to them at some point, you should really be connected with Dan and your department. That would be what my expectation would be, and it'd be of Jody as well. Is I need to make sure that those people are getting it, like that their principal or someone in their building's working with them, new teacher, that they're connected to Dan.
Right.
The real issue would come is if you missed that date or there wasn't a spot for them, and I checked in with them in November, like I don't know who Dan is, and it's kind of weird being new here at the school.
Right. I mean, how I picture that is how I've tried to like be a leader in terms of distributed leadership, even in my principal role. Like your goal in a way is like to make sure everything is set so that you don't have to be there, to be very honest. So take the new teacher example. If Dan's not there, he's already connected with the 3 new teachers. They exactly know what they're doing that day, who they're connecting with. He might have some, a reinforcement come in, another teacher meet. I mean, he's done all that. So in a way, it probably doesn't matter if he's not there that day. So it totally goes through, again, building that leadership vision, communicating that, people knowing what it is. And then it's not about punching the clock, even though that's what we just spent the half hour talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's, and again, most of you looking around the table, many of you are used to punching the clock for the last 15 years in your specific roles. So it's, so you just need to adjust and navigate your new leadership positions, really, and figure out how that works the best for you, for your longevity, and then the sustainability of the programs you're working with. So, yeah. All right,
Okay, so the next 2 items are budget information and L1 through 3.
all right, so
Very quick phrase, I had a little comment, I need to jump in. Really hear evaluating Jody.
you guys have
Glad we
any,
can participate.
Yeah.
you guys have any questions for, do you guys have, before Ryan leaves, do you have any questions for Ryan besides you couldn't read his handwriting on L1 or L3 at all? Because that's the good stuff that we'll get into
I
after
use
he
the
leaves.
orange. I didn't get that.
I
Nothing?
I looked through the sale,
Okay.
some of the sale, the PowerPoint, talked a little bit about kind of find some things around writing the L1, just some guidance. And a lot of that PowerPoint was about root cause and problem identification. So maybe some words of wisdom having gone through and leading that section about the actual, not what we say, but how to approach the
sales training as like 4 stages, like problem identification, theory of action, action steps, and monitoring. Part of our monitoring are those 5 things, like L1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the challenge in one is really as simple as what's the instructional vision and goals for your department or for your team or for your school. And sometimes that's hard to articulate, but it's, is there a math vision for this district yet? Or does it have some key components and bullet points as part of that? As well as, is there a goal? So Dan, I looked at Dan's, we keep asking, like, what would we expect to see when we entered a math classroom in this district? Maybe it'd be different at different levels, but what would you kind of expect to see? Engage in instruction, kids problem solving, knowing multiple strategies for solving problems, whatever it might be. It might be a series of things. We haven't defined that yet, but eventually by getting a couple of things on paper, that helps with L1. L2 is he just put like literally percent of students algebra ready by high school per MAP CCR. And my note to them was like, yes. I mean, let's just start there. We don't have anything, so giving us a starting point for there gives us a chance to be like, well, that would be a data point we'd start to measure year after year on this district, and we'd eventually be able to talk about where we're getting those that are the most ready, or where they're not, or instructionally some changes we might want to do at 4th and 5th grade to better improve our results of something like that. So I'd say don't overthink it from that sense, because just by establishing a couple of those things, it gets it going to some key practices you're trying to get at. Or so if you're saying we want to see students talking about their problems, being able to talk through their learning as they're learning about math, maybe that's a part of it, that we want them to be able to be engaged in dialogue and share their thinking and their problem solving. That would lead to L2, which would be, well, then some of the key strategies instructionally we're looking for teachers that are designing instruction for this and this. And then the monitoring for that would be like, well, when we come into a classroom, we would want to see that kids have time to work through problems and share their thinking, and maybe there'd be a couple strategies for that. Maybe it's written, maybe it's oral, maybe they're using an app, I don't care. That would be sort of, so we should have PD around that, and we should monitor some of those things. And then last but not least is go back to, so is it making a difference? And we keep looking at our kids, more and more kids growing with the college. That's slowly where we get to. And I know we're in year 1 of it, so it's hard to see all that, but come back a year from now, that a couple of those pieces might be a little more clear. Come back 2 years from now, Dan might be able to actually say, like, it's increasing. And actually what our key indicator is looking here and here, or these are the strategies. Or you might say with confidence, when I go to these schools, I'm seeing this happening more often than not. Or Rose and I are really collaborating around what we're seeing, at elementary. So that's just where we want to get to, where it's slow, and maybe he'd want to scrap that goal, or maybe he adds to it and says, well, by 4th grade, I'd like to see, this level change in terms of this assessment results. You might even say by ACT. So eventually it just becomes a little tighter story that I believe Dan will be repeated at the board level, and if I were to predict, in a year or 2, because eventually when they talk about math, like 10 marks and green box, like they were talking about these last 2 months, eventually they're going to be able to start that sentence with, do you know that as a school district, on these 3 indicators, we've been improving over the last 3 years? Do you know that in our math classrooms, we value this, this, and this? They don't know how to say that right now because we haven't told them enough that those are important to us. And that's kind of what this work goes back to. Or when somebody's hired, eventually they're like, you're on the math department, here's some of the department work that we're done and what we're really focused on. You're part of our team. Looking forward to having you help us achieve things. So that's, I don't know if that helps.
And now I'd like to, well, you can read.
No.
Because I want to expand. I want to take us through this example when he reads, because I think it'll become more clear.
I don't know what's involved in it or cost or anything in that, but I can't get it out of looking at that 160 page, whatever came out, but is there any chance of an opportunity for us to get part of that sales training? Just that we would have the background that you have, because hearing it and doing it again is feasible, but it just seems like we should be a little more in depth if we get some of that training.
SAIL is very generic. So imagine any department, any school, any district that can be a part of it. All it is as a management process for your work. It's about identifying your key problems that you're faced with. It's about establishing a theory of action, like here's what we're going to try to do. Then it's about actually putting together those action steps and monitoring it as you go through.
My goal is you have 2 SAIL trainers in the district. So my goal is, and you see it as a revolving agenda item for a reason, you don't need to go to SAIL training, like we're the SAIL training.
Okay.
So you're going to be living out the SAIL training in your leadership because of the things that we're taking you through.
So if we want to put it a couple of days on the calendar, easily can. Last year I did a quick condensed version with principals after we went the first time and got decent reviews. So I upgraded that. We're gonna have a second site go this year with the secondary grading for learning one. Brian and I, he doesn't know the date yet, but I said it yesterday. But we're gonna be putting together a Waukesha for learning one, and I could definitely invite Waukesha 1. Sorry.
Yep.
Waukesha 1
Right.
condensed version. I could definitely invite anybody
I
else
want
to be a
that
part
one.
of it and looking at it through the lens of no matter what topic this is, it could fit mine. So I could plan that.
But we're doing that here.
Yes.
That's not, okay.
Not
That's
getting
what,
everyone to-
okay.
Yes.
Because I do believe that in the short amount of time, I did do a condensed version. I think for the most part, most principals got the gist of it and understood it from a framework. And my goal of doing the mini training after it was really just to get people on board and understanding what it was. And I don't know if it needs the required 3 days and all the follow up if our system gets good at it, which is where. So I appreciate the request. I'll put it on and we'll get it because I think it'd be a great learning. I think we could do it as effectively as a day and instead of planning for the Waukesha 1-1 because it really just helps you frame your work. And that's honestly, every time we're on our 7th monitoring. We started the 7th official series of monitoring. We did 4 unofficial ones 1 year. If you've seen them, I know some of you have seen some of them, they have improved each quarter. We're getting more and more clarity around goal. I mean, the first one, I swear, honest to goodness, the first one, the principal didn't even show up, and then when we didn't know that we even had it, and it was just like, and that was a reality of like, oh, we are checking up on that. The whole first year was like, we don't really have goals. The biggest hurdle we had this year was Bob Antoline's target for the year, which was getting buildings to identify some key high leverage practices regarding literacy that we could talk about. And he was so worried sick last year the whole year, like, I don't know how to get people to talk about it. I don't want to just tell people. I don't know if we should do it. I don't know if we should say it or not. But if you watch now, people are clearly talking about it for the right or the wrong reasons. Wherever they got it from, you hear it. Like, we're making thinking visible, or we're doing thoughtful logs, or we're doing, and that was a big step. So I'm excited because I'm seeing that growth. Now our big challenge is the 2 questions I asked at the end, which was, what stage are you in that practice? Having people recognize that practice takes time to grow and develop and that they're really needed during this stage more than anything. Don't just want to do your next thing, recognize the importance of being in the now with people. And the last one was, do you even know if you're getting results? Like if you had an award like the Golden Apple to go give out to the place that got the best results based on your department, do you know where to give that? And a lot of people didn't yet, and that's okay. It's just we don't have good data yet. So I'm celebrating that we've gone far, but I know our goal by the end of the year is to get to the point where people can realize those 2 last questions and then start next year with some good clarity. But with you guys, we'll do the same. And because it's a good spot for you, I think, department-wise, because it holds me accountable. It was really hard for me to write those 5 things because it basically, once you write it down, it's kind of like, well, these are what's important. This is what I'm going to be evaluated by, or this is what, and that, but it also becomes helpful in steering everything else off the plate because it's like, I know I got to do a lot of things, but I'm still going to get this done. Or when you don't get it done, you give yourself a 1, and then
Yeah, I like that.
we got a couple of 1s.
I got a 1 coming in.
A negative 1. Thanks, you guys. Those are real good
Thank you.
questions on all of these topics. So we'll get it.
So it seems the pattern is whoever is in charge of the agenda, we talk about their anchor chart. So we picked on Rachel last time. So we'll I want to just dig into a little bit more Jason's question, what Ryan was saying. You know, Jason mentioned it starts with problem identification and root cause. And the last time we met, that's the brainstorming you did to say, you know, in your department or in your schools or in your area with kids, like what are you seeing that is the issue and what do we need to do about it? So when Jason was brainstorming, without reading it to you, where I had question marks, because this is what he was identifying as issues. We have a curricular framework issue. We have a hiring practices issue. We have a learning outcomes issue. We have a feedback to students issue. So these are all, like, in his mind, things he identified as problems. So then my next question would be, okay, what are you going to focus on? If you think hiring practices is our number 1 thing, then you're going to develop your if-then statement around that. If we have better hiring practices because whatever you said we don't have, then I expect we will hire more quality teachers, whatever, like I'm making it up as I said. If you think we don't give enough good specific feedback to students, if we give positive, timely, standards-driven feedback to students, then we should see an increase in the student learning level. So that's how the theory of action works. Going to, you know, Brian's, he wanted to be able to see practices, teaching practices that align with the level of modification across our system. So if teaching practices align with the level of modification, then what are we hoping from a student outcomes perspective? Right. So that then is his theory of action. So that's what your L1 should look like. And I don't know if you two were at our original meeting when they started doing this, but I would love to see also from the spec ed lens.
And we
What that looks
worked
like.
on it.
Okay,
The two of us and Linda
Cool.
helped us.
cool.
But
And then,
we didn't put it on the beautiful poster board
well,
that you guys did.
well,
But
what I wanted was, again, for all of our thinking to be here, for us to be able to contribute to everyone's thinking. And then I asked Ryan and Bob and Sarah to come in to give you guys feedback as well, so it just wasn't from me and a different eye and a different lens. So Rachel's proud that she cleaned
I have
hers up a
nothing.
little bit.
I have no feedback, so it must be really good.
Yeah, because she took the feedback and
Actually,
rearranged it already. Right.
Jody, quick question.
Yeah.
The if-then theory, like that, those words.
Theory of action. Yeah.
Is that's not the L1. Like, where does the if-then theory fit in terms of, like, that's just the big picture to me. That's not.
It could be if it's measurable. That's what I want to say.
So my L1 might be.
Because that's your
if
goal.
then.
Yeah. I think you need to start with an if-then statement, but just add a measurable in there, like what we didn't model as a district. So right now we have a theory of if all teachers have high levels of literacy strategies, then, and we provide them with specific feedback and we give them timely PD, then students will become more literate.
Right.
We didn't say we want 5% of our kids to increase their literacy levels. So it's mixed in with that.
I guess that
Confuses you?
Well, it. Someone else.
Okay.
Like, to me, the L1 is like the big ticket item. Like, this
Yes.
is the goal. What you just said, like, the theory of action to me is your means to get to the goal. So that's embedded in L2 and L3. Like
Huh.
I'm gonna, my theory of action is what L2 and L3 are. They're my high
Those
level
are your high
practices,
level-
and they're
okay.
my PD that I'm gonna deliver to meet the goal.
Does anyone have an L1 done where we could see? I agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
I guess I can't learn.
I have my theory of action, but I think it's kind of
Right, that's,
because it says if I can't remember.
if teachers develop rigorous inquiry-based instruction and students engage in scientific argument writing and analysis, then students will develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills and learn important concepts and ideas.
Because the goal is going to without this doesn't matter, right?
Right. Like, to me, that is her L1. That's her goal. That's her theory of action.
Yeah.
I look at my theory of action as being more like all-encompassing.
Okay.
My high leverage practices can be applied across my entire team, but my specific goal, because the teachers that are bringing in are working at level 1, so they're bringing in this work
Okay.
to be able to flex and baseline data and record. So my high leverage practices could be with not just at level 1, but everywhere. So the theory of action takes those high leverage practices and says, if teachers do these things,
Right.
that can only increase students' proficiency levels.
Yeah.
But my goal is, because this year we're working at level 1, I want to see the measurable outcomes that we need to establish this year, and we do.
Yeah.
We don't have that yet. That I can say that mine said this big number, so I went with the golden 80% and said that they would be at what we determined. But really, any of those teachers can do that. That's my kind of thinking.
Yeah. You're spot on too. So again, I think that we're blurring, and we, meaning Ryan and I, are blurring SAIL, which uses the language of theory of action, and Waukesha, which uses L1 through L5. L1 through 5 is not SAIL. Okay?
Oh,
Just-
that's
just-
key.
Because I look at how I can
Oh.
L1 through 5 is a leadership framework that SAIL would say you need a leadership framework.
Okay, thank you. Because I looked at
You
the
see?
point and I was like lost. I was going to say.
So it's your
the problem
chosen
is
framework.
L1.
Correct.
It's not sales.
So sales says you need a framework, and then Waukesha said, okay, this is the framework. Muskego would have a different one because they're working on a different. So again, I saw the light bulb. That was a cool moment. It brings me back to my. So we're unclear. Theory of action is language from SAIL training. L1 through 5 is what Waukesha has adopted as a leadership framework.
But we've also taken something from SAIL that when I was looking through that monstrous PowerPoint, I'm like, which one can I do it? What's the other one?
Yes.
Yeah, one is the problem, right?
So to find it.
That you're identifying a problem. that you
Yeah, I mean,
want to solve.
in order to make a goal, you have to figure out what your problem is. Absolutely.
So I got one. The rest
Absolutely.
was,
Absolutely.
So you would like your L1 to be a SMART goal written in terms of theory of action.
Yeah, and you all have it. You know, she has it. I might say to Erica, what's the measurable? You just read it and you have it. Yours is the umbrella with the measurable. I think it's the same thing. So yeah.
So the measurement tool is not that you want that though. I guess you go back to what you said. You want, that should be evident. Where it's evident doesn't really matter. It's
Right. It's can your department, if the science teachers, if every science teacher at the secondary level could articulate that, that would be huge.
It
Right?
might be just focusing
That's
in
their-
on one group, like my sample.
And
group,
you're right.
'cause they're right.
Because that's their work every day. They come to work and they're like, I have to present instruction that is, engaging in scientific art. Like if they're not doing that, they need to check themselves at the door kind of a thing. Because then they know that's my department focus, that's what I need to be doing. And again, knowing that, right, a teacher would have 50 million other things, but it focuses them on the work. Same thing even from the modification level. Every day a teacher comes in, when they unit plan, when they lesson plan, they're really focusing on being and living and breathing that modification level. And just knowing that as a teacher is going to force me to just think about something differently because I have modification on my mind.
I would still want to push them for Ryan's and Jason's, whatever their theory of action is, to me, those two books side by side by different Because, like, I get, my anxiety comes when I'm like, how are all of my department members? I keep going back to Ryan's, like, if I knock on the door of a social studies teacher, what should I expect to see? Well,
Right.
I haven't talked to this person in all year really. It's like, hi, and I go to do the observation, but I haven't dug into work with them. I don't really know what they're going to see. And that gives me anxiety. I can't imagine supporting K-12, really in essence, what is, like, what that looks like. And so to me, I think we need to be strategic, this team, if we're content coordinators, to really attaching ourselves because Ryan's work and Jason's work should really be supporting the content work.
I think just the opposite.
But
Our
yes,
work is your, like,
Yes.
our work. is
that's
your
what I meant.
That's
Like,
right.
but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's like, I don't know. And right now it feels a little separated. Like when I hear Ryan talk about modification, I don't know that that's part of what I'm like. That's not a focus.
So, but remember because this is exactly why that might end up being it for me.
Yeah.
Because modification is about me thinking differently about how I instruct students from a traditional,
Correct.
with or without technology, it doesn't matter. Like, I need to do this differently.
Right.
Yeah. You don't get to modification until you think differently about what to do in your classroom. So that's why I picked it, because
Yeah.
no
That
matter
works
what
with
you guys
anybody.
do, that
Everybody
fits.
can say, science teacher can say that, tech ed teacher can
Yeah.
say that.
Me? On your success. What you see. Yeah. I mean, really.
Jason's not too?
Yeah. I mean,
Well, no, like, what's your question? How do you measure the modification piece?
Yeah.
Well, I think one way is
Your
the
feedback.
survey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I understand that that's a self-reflective piece, but that's one piece.
Yeah.
Another piece could be student identification of that. That could be another piece.
What was that? Student identification.
Students being able to say in what area those practices fall. Same thing with teachers as they're identifying.
if I sat
that.
down with a group of kids and said, what's happening in your classroom? Are you
Right.
doing anything different than you ever did before? Like, And then they say, no, the iPads are really just really fun for playing games. And I know we're in a different place. Yeah, right.
It'll be interesting because at some point, what was once modification is no longer. The kid will go to that.
Yeah.
When I do the data, and then I was thinking, right, so it's not like, when I did the progress monitoring the data, must it be some sort of examination? Or could my data also combine the qualification and important data, much like the teacher would collect for their artifacts to support the evidence collected around their instruction and learning happening in the classroom? So, part of that would be to measure student achievement, create some sort of examination. Or could it be sitting down at the end of the year, looking at what you did at the beginning, and then I just take a sample of students, say my number one students, and just sit down with you, and you see where you are with training. And I look at this goal of competency and those management, right? And
Yeah.
say at the end of the year, see, this is where you are, and here's where you are now, check, like, not check, but you did it, what you did it. Is that evidence as well? in terms of
Absolutely.
data?
Absolutely.
How do we report that when we get recognized at the schools? Because all the data that I saw that the schools reporting on, math,
Oh, yeah.
all of that, I didn't see a whole lot of other data except for the perception data itself
Right.
and some of the student data here in my center, and that's what got me. So how do we balance our data with the stuff that we know and we're walking in the classroom? Do you know?
To me, your goals are similar to a teacher's in that, like, a teacher's not coming with like WKC. Like, if they were to present a quarterly, they're not presenting on WKCE and ACT. That's school level data, and that's what principals are reporting out on. But this is another layer, and that would be perfectly fine in terms of data to use. In fact, I would wonder if we could get to a point in our organization where we could have that teacher doing that conferencing to measure that growth. That's where you want to be, right? Not even you coming in to measure that. Taylor doing that with her kids.
Right, that conference.
Yep.
So maybe to follow up on, I think if we wait following the design, if we wait until December to figure out how we measure it, we need to work, figure out how to measure it, and what kind of what that looks like sooner than later. The natural progression would be to work towards it and then eventually figure out how to go to figure that out later, but maybe, you know.
Well, that's in a way written into your goal, right?
Right.
But what does that tool, what does the tool look like, how it, because we have data that's more ambiguous than compared to data. But maybe it's defining what it actually looks like. As you would for each student average, you would look at that's the standards, and you scale it.
That's my
You don't think about that until you figure out which
I
problem
got it.
you're in.
When I hear this updated version,
Yeah.
so there's two in response to ratios. Or might align. So if we have two, if one is an alignment review process, not curriculum review, within curriculum review, an alignment review process that helps teachers and coordinators review and revise and improve alignment between part of evidence and instruction. So it's what we want to teach and assess and alignment with what we want to teach and what we review. So that gets out the instructional outcomes piece.
So is the problem there then that you believe there's inconsistency in that alignment today?
And a misunderstanding of what the instructional outcomes are. And the second would be develop and implement a great effective professional learning activities designed to increase the amount of developmental time and effective feedback that leads to students responding to school. So word alignment and feedback fit like requires modification. Does that support the workload? Doesn't it?
That's my how to for record.
I don't get the modification. I don't know what I'm supposed to be teaching. Can't write different if I don't even know what the initial was.
So it's kind of similar to yours. What do you want students to know and be able to do? How do you know? I mean, it's the 3 pillars that Flight has hanging up that I put on our Twitter feed. It's like the same questions. I mean, I know you read it out loud. I need to see it for sure. But yeah, I mean,
There's two different.
Learning how to do for us is the easy skills, which is but so I'll have them and I can look at Dan Alley about tagging for assessments and some of those. So
but no, we know exactly what skills they're getting better at, and so you see it all year. And they're doing that work, and they can see maybe if they're not doing it on the self-assessment in certain areas, and then how they preserve that.
So, because this is the work of this spring and summer and next year, is it feasible that when we come back from spring break, I think the first Wednesday is like April 15th or something, is it feasible that by then you will have like taken your feedback, tried to craft theory of action? However, some of you have done that. So an if then, and then some type of goal. And for some of you, that might be all packaged in one. Is that reasonable that we could try to all kind of take a crack at it on that day, knowing that again, it doesn't have to be,
Wednesday after break, you said?
doesn't have to be wrapped in a bow, but at least we can all say okay and have a clean one up, and this is it, and then we'll all kind of continue to have that discussion. This will be, and I think you guys have hopefully noticed, I mean, there hasn't been an agenda now where this hasn't been on there. So it will continue to show up because this is the work, and yeah, there's nuts and bolts stuff that we have to take care of, obviously, but this is the hard work, and we're in a good place. I think the cognitive dissonance is good. This is similar to what how our principals reacted about over a year ago. Seriously, it's just we get better at this as we go, and so.
I think I asked some of the providers yesterday that I just talked to some of the high school coaches and middle school literacy coaches. I just said I want to bring everybody together to frame this outline, because to me, like their input, like they know their building, they know, like they're going to see their people on a much more day-to-day basis than I'm going to be able to see their building very much. And when I think about how principals present their quarter meetings, they have a team. Their team is there. Their team is building their work. Their team meets before those quarter meetings. Their teams come together weekly around that one outline. And sometimes I think that when I look at who's executing this, who's implementing this, who's building this, who's developing this, it feels very isolated. Like I'm building a humanities goal, right? And looking at how effective the principals are with this, every one of them I think would attribute to, well, I have the effectiveness coach who helps with this, and I have the AP who helps with this, and I have my reading coach. How can we put each other around that, and then also like utilize those those people, you know?
Yeah, so if I was Erica, and if I was Eric Hill at North, and Erica came to me and said, "This is what we're doing," that would be like the worst leadership mistake ever. So and maybe this is a wrong assumption, but I assume that has happened because you've had department and teacher conversations about what your problem is. And so Eric Hill would say, yeah, we totally know that this has been our focus this year. We need to continue to do this. Now, if you can't say that, don't put that out there for anybody, because I'll save
really
you.
all versus, remember last week we brought up like the all having input, all having understanding.
You were worried about the 100% that was on the
and I still
check-in
am.
too.
I go back to sharing my talked about.
You will
this
never
earlier,
have.
that-
You will
Yeah.
not have it.
Right, and that's just testing.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. Yeah. You will not have that, right? And not everybody. That's that whole "you will not be liked by everybody" conversation. Yeah.
So my feeling off of that, my thought was, when the high school principal sat down and said, we're going to send SLO this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing we wanted to go up at our teachers and say,
We-
hey guys, what do you
good
think
question.
about this?
Yep. That goal.
Just gonna guess.
No, but that goal was 2 years in the works. So we've had a ACT reading standard focus for 2 years. So did we go and survey 80 people and say, are you okay with this goal? Yes or no? No. Did we present it at like a August day and say, this is what we come up with from our work the past 2 years. This is how we framed it because of the L1. You guys okay with it? What do we need to add? Everyone was like, yeah, we're already doing it. This is our work. So if it was something like, we're now going to do Taekwondo and we're going to use the Taekwondo rubrics in every class, the 3 principals would not have said that goal and said, this is what we're doing, because it would, I mean, it's got to be aligned to the work you're doing. This goal for Brian, I don't think it's going to be a surprise because, I mean, we've touched on SAMR. People know that as we evolve in Waukesha 1 and the rollout, you're sort of moving on that continuum from substitution to modification. I mean, it's a sort of repurposing of the work, packaging it for them to say, what are all these initiatives? If you look around, if I take Eric Hill, he might say we're doing 10 different initiatives, but not if we can connect them together in what they're already doing.
So
It's a good question.
the thing that I do struggle with, and it comes down to that data piece though. So we listened on the last round of quarterlies. At the beginning of this year, we had this big focus on the walkthrough tool, right? And then as I listened to that last round of quarterlies, almost all the tools had been some branch off of that. They moved,
Yeah.
you know, so as I'm like, I can come up with the ETAP is my own tool, right?
Yeah.
Like that work, but that's not the tool that is my everyday tool.
Yeah.
And so I wonder about, as we keep like changing tools and doing what, like, it becomes difficult for me to develop a data point out of
Okay.
8 different tools changed 3 times over throughout a year. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I wonder how we deal with that issue, because the tools are going to change, but at some point we have to get solid in what it is so we can. The beauty of the ETAP is we've now got 3 years of data to look at,
Absolutely.
you know.
Right.
So I'm just curious, like, how you guys are.
What? I understand the general comment, but I guess I don't know your question.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, if I'm looking at, like, at the beginning of the year, so the walkthrough tool, I was looking at that data and going, okay, so this is telling me what we're doing in the classroom. But when that changes, and now we have Wes
Didn't
is.
change.
Oh, I think, but the idea that tool didn't particularly change, but people said
Okay.
we're not going to use that, and then another school said we're not going to do this for the next. We're not going to look at it until. So I guess my question is though, like, what's the consistency of that data? If I'm building my goal off of, which I think is the right thing to do, my data collection off of what practitioners are already collecting for data.
I don't know how to answer that.
I don't know if there is an answer,
Simply
yeah.
because this, like, if all my schools would have continued to use that lockstep form,
Mm-hmm.
to me, they would have been doing it for all the reasons I don't want them to.
Mhm.
Because the district said I have to use this form because this is what we're collecting, blah, blah, blah. The schools that have evolved, and I'm gonna use that word again, have evolved in their practices because that's where they are at that time. This is what the teacher focus is. I mean, I'll use Wes as an example. I think it's fabulous what they're doing. They're honing in on some very specific things that they learned from the original data,
Mhm.
and they're crafting it to the actual teacher behaviors and giving specific feedback on it. If we're not doing that, we're not like evolving in our practice. So
what I'm fishing for, and I'm getting from you, is what's your theory on collective data? I mean, the theory is it should like the tool should modify to meet the needs. So I think that's good for all of us to know though,
Okay.
so that we're not building on, like, if I built my goal this year on that walkthrough tool,
okay,
knowing that you're okay with it changing tells me I shouldn't build on that goal.
Well, and
I
that
shouldn't
was
build
my,
on that tool.
my first thought was I have Brian every quarter, can I get just my department's that information? Because that's what I am using, that's how I formed the SMART goal, that's how I use it. I was like,
Well, that's
I
great.
was equally like, almost like, wait a minute, people aren't using it anymore?
I think that's inaccurate though. I think that's inaccurate to say that. I mean, you would have the data, I guess, to prove me wrong, but
It goes in bunches. Like,
Yeah.
we'll get, some schools are using it all the time. Some
Right.
schools have gone in a different direction.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think, and I'm still in the teacher mindset when I think of SLO, that you don't change your measurement tool. You change your instructional practices, you don't change your measurement tool because now you've got SKU data. And we tell our teachers that when they build and capture that. And so that I'm still in that. My brain is still wrapped in that mentality of like we would not tell our teachers to change your measurement goal. We would tell them mid-year review you need to change your goal.
Right, but there's several reasons we came up with that tool as a district, and I think one of the reasons, not the main reasons, but one of the reasons we came up with that tool is because we had 60% of our schools not using a tool, anything. So part of the reason we did that, and we're so like you have to XYZ, is because it wasn't consistent across our system. So we developed that consistency. But again, I would change what data is that skewing. North is still looking at their data, and everybody reporting out in the areas of DOK or whatever, they're using that. Like, has anybody at the district level besides Rachel asked you for that data? So
Oh yeah, Dan, sorry. Yeah,
but
Dan.
to my point, so it's not skewing our data because we don't even have a measurable goal for that data to skew our data. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. This is what I meant. When I say skew when if I can't do walkthroughs with a coach in the building, which I like to do walkthroughs. I like going into classrooms with coaches to calibrate.
Yep, I saw that.
When I know that tool is being used not just through my eyes, but like through everybody's eyes,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting a better picture of what's going on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now I'm the only one using it. It's still my perception of what's happening in humanities, not this is what's happening based on district feedback. But I built it on this is what humanities, this is what's happening.
So take that example then. So West has evolved and they're using a different form. Now you could pair out some of the same things that they're asking.
Yeah.
South, I don't know what they're doing, and North is using that. So
Yeah.
from a
I'm
the
not
middle
worried
schools-
about it.
Okay.
I think what Brian said, I think we hit on a really relevant point. Like, what data you collect, what data you use.
I don't think
that
it's a
can be
good or
fluid.
bad. I don't think it's a good or bad thing. I think as I'm sitting here, I'm like in Apollo 15, looking at all the stuff that's on the table. We got to, right? So what's on the table that's going to consistently be there that I can build on, and what's the stuff that might change? And so I'm just not going to either. I'm not going to build on that, or I have to think differently about that data because I'm going to have to kind of convert what this data means into, if DOK is the consistency no matter what the tool is, then that tells me what my consistent piece is that I can look at.
I mean, this is going to sound really cynical. When have we been pretty consistent on anything in 12 years? I mean, so for us to worry, yes, but I mean, for us to like fret, like I just think things evolve, and we again, you guys are all in leadership positions for a reason. Some of these questions is funny because some of the questions you're asking me are sometimes some of the questions your teachers have asked you on numerous occasions in 2 months, and sometimes it's perceived by you as pushback, they don't get it, etc. So it's kind of funny what I see the questions. Thank you, at least 2 people agree with me at the table. So we're all in a different role at each different time. Now, Rachel's not in my chair. Rachel comes back to the chair and talks to her teachers. And then they kind of give questions, and she might say, they're like focused on what they're focused
Of water.
So I don't think you guys realize the talent and ability that you have around this table, or maybe you're second guessing that. But this is the most highly talented group of people that I know in our district. So if for some reason I have said something that makes you scared